Sicily. Sun-soaked Sicily is just off the tip of Italy's boot, an almost otherworldly island that has a character distinct from the rest of southern Italy. Visitors can hike the slopes of Mount Etna and sip the wine that's made there. Get lost in the maze-like Baroque towns of Noto, Modica, and Ragusa. Feast on fresh seafood on Ortigia Island. Sunbathe on the island's countless beautiful beaches or let the hours pass eating granita and cannoli in pretty squares. There are majestic ruins and archaeological sites, many dating back to ancient Greek times, dotted all over the island. Bologna, famed for its swelteringly hot summers, radical left-wing politics, picturesque terracotta buildings, and all that food, glorious food. Bologna could well be one of Europe's most underrated city break destinations. In fact, the food here would be enough of a draw in itself. The capital of the Emilia-Romagna region is the home of mortadella, tortellini, and tagliatelle al ragu. After all, grab a gelato for dessert and make the pilgrimage to the sanctuary of the Madonna di San Luca, just beyond the ancient city walls. Florence. Sure, there's the Duomo and Michelangelo's David and the Uffizi and the Ponte Vecchio. Florence positively brims with headline attractions that are well worth visiting. But there's so much more to this city than just the tourist magnets. For example, some parks that rarely feel busy, quirky museums that'll give you the creeps, vintage shops and second stores galore, and delicious gelato that'll have you mumbling benissimo under your breath all day long. Florence isn't a Renaissance theme park. It's a living city with plenty to seduce visitors of all tastes. Sardinia. Sardinia ticks a lot of different holiday boxes. Beach bunnies will fall head over heels for the white sands and impossibly aquamarine water around Costa Smeralda and the island's south coast. Nature lovers and hikers could wander for days around the interior, which feels like it hasn't changed for centuries. And foodies can also spoil themselves with some of Italy's finest produce and gorge themselves silly on seafood. Whatever kind of getaway you're after, there are plenty of idyllic accommodation options ripe to make yours a truly perfect stay. Ischia. A volcanic beauty sitting in the Bay of Naples, Ischia is an island that does both. It's big enough to justify spending your entire vacation there, yet small enough that you could feasibly see the whole thing in a week. Spend your days exploring coves, grottos, beaches, gardens, and rugged hills. Spend your nights dining in upscale restaurants in the bustling areas of Forio and Ischia Porto, where boats bob on the marina and ferries offload holidaying Napolitani. Best of all, while Ischia certainly attracts summer crowds, it doesn't yet feel overcrowded, particularly in comparison to neighboring Capri. Do yourself a favor and visit now, and rent a moped if you want to do it right. Milan. Thanks to a fast-expanding transport network and a host of new Starchitect design buildings, tourism has boomed in Italy's business capital in recent years. Far more than just an excellent place to stock up on the latest shoes, the city has undergone a renaissance of late. Cool bars, cool restaurants, cool cultural centers, and so on. That all feels rather appropriate considering Renaissance man Leonardo da Vinci was responsible for the city's crisscrossing network of canals, parts of the dazzling Castello Sforzesco, and also, just making Milan historically a very artsy and creative place to be. Naples. Charming, hodgepodge, rundown Naples, once a rogue and dangerous Italian city to be avoided, is in the midst of a grand revival. Back on the map thanks to the success of Elena Ferrante's Neapolitan novels and Roberto Saviano's crime saga Gomorrah, plus the international TV adaptations of both. Travelers who once would have bypassed this rough-hewn city are flocking here in droves. And yet it's still kept much of its character and old-world charm. Laundry laces the back alleys, markets brim with sweet-smelling local produce, and life here is lived on the streets. Oh, and that backdrop, Lake Como. Italy has its fair share of dramatic scenery, but nothing can quite prepare you for the moment you first set eyes on Lake Como. An impossibly turquoise, wishbone-shaped lake, flanked by the Alps and with shores lined by palatial villas and pretty towns. This long-time escape for the well-to-do has to be seen to be believed. While a handful of Lake Como's famous villas house luxury hotels, many are open to the public, including the exquisite Villa Balbianello, made famous by Casino Royale and Star Wars. Our tip? Pay a visit to the popular towns of Bellagio and Varenna, but stay in the city of Como for a wider range of budget-friendly accommodation. And try the Misaltino, Rome. With world-renowned art collections and a shit ton of history on pretty much every corner, Rome is a rite of passage for history buffs. But while you might come here for all the ruins, it's also worth a trip if you're properly into your cutting-edge food and drink, or just like a really good slice of pizza, TBH. Add to this the allure of its many verdant parks, with their beautiful panoramic terraces and a moderate climate that's inviting during any season, and it'll become far too easy to fall in love with the Italian capital. Venice, where to start with La Serenissima. Even if you're not here for the Biennale or Carnival, this city positively hums with good vibes all year round. It has beaches, some of the world's best art, and we don't know if you've heard about the food here, but it's properly great too. Above all, Venice calls for getting lost. So avoid the touristy gondola rides and wander aimlessly along the alluring backstreets, with regular stops for Prosecco and Sacchetti, of course.